In this video, we're going to learn to make various statistical charts that are used. As we go through statistics, the first thing we're going to do is show how to display data. Then later on, we'll work with the data and do things with it. But for the time being, we just want to make up a table and display the data that I have in front of me here. So what we do in order to display the data itself, not the graph, but the data, is we can make up a chart like the following. So I can make a grade column, and then I can make what's called a frequency column. So when we go through these, we have grades. I can see grades of A, B, C, D, and F. So all the grades are there. A, B, C, D, F. The frequency is how many times each entry occurs. So the A's, if I look at this, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A's. The number of B's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 B's. The number of C's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 C's. D's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 D's, and then 1 F. Now, in order to tell how much data you have, you want to add this column up and get a total for it. So let's see what we have here. We have 5 plus 6 is 11, 18, 20, 24. Now this information here, this is enough information for us to get a graph of the data. Now we're going to be doing some more things with it, but right now they want us to create a frequency table, but I'm also going to draw a bar graph that shows this data visually. So let me go and grab something to draw. And in here, I'm going to go grab my shapes. And the shape you're going to want is basically an L-shaped graph. Let me come back into here. Something like this. Now, you won't need to know all the words that we use with them. Like this horizontal line is technically referred to the x-axis, and this vertical line is technically referred to the y-axis, but that's not really that important. What we're going to do is we are going to put the grades along the x-axis and the frequencies along the y-axis. So down here, I'll have my grades. And then over here, we can put frequency. For the grades, we have A, B, C, D, and F. So with that said, I'm going to readjust my graph when I see that I don't need as much width as I had before. So I'm going to, I don't know, I have to think, when you do this, scaling is a big deal. You want to give yourself plenty of space so that your bars don't overlap. And I'm suddenly thinking that the space I was requiring here is not what I wanted. I think that'll do a little bit better. Now let me see how high I have to go. I'm gonna make my graph a little bit thinner again. That's all I need for that. Let me come up and take a look at the data. Now if you look at the frequencies, the highest frequency is 7. So getting these to be to look good requires scaling many times. And this one's really easy. If they only go up to 7, then you can actually just list each and every one of them. So I see my graph's a little bit taller than I need it to be. So I'll cut that down. And now all we do is we make rectangles above each of the grades with this size. So I want to make the first one a length or a height of 5. So I'll go and grab a rectangular shape. Let me come down to the graph. And I think that'll do it. Now what I'm going to do to make life easier on me, I'm just going to copy that. And I'll move this guy here over the top of the B. Let me see how tall the B was supposed to be. It was supposed to be 6. Got it. Let me copy another rectangle, put it above C. This one was supposed to be 7. If you are watching me and you are just dying because this seems so boring what I'm doing, make it go faster on your video. Set it to like double the speed or something, because I can't do these any faster than this. This next one is only 5, which was exactly the size of the first one. So let me go ahead and, this one I won't have to adjust its height. Let me get the D in here. Got it. And then one last one, let me click over here. The last one, the F's, there was only one F. So I'll put this here. And I'll bring this down. And so that's what our graph would look like. Many times you'll see people put shading in it. You can do that. There's no requirement that you do it though. But if you want to, or colors, lots of people like to put colors in these things. And when we do it inside of a spreadsheet program, it'll give you the option of choosing the colors and everything like that. So there is a completed graph. Now, there's a couple of extra columns that you're going to face when you come to the homework. Frequency tells us about the entirety of the data. But then we want something else here, another column referred to as relative frequency. So let me continue this line underneath. And how you figure that out is you take the number of times the item occurs and divide it by the total number of items. So my computation would be 5 out of 24. But when you answer in the book or anywhere else, it's probably going to want it in a percent fashion. So I will do the calculator, 5 divided by 24, enter, and then I'll multiply by 100%. Now, it's quite possible, as I've been looking through the book, they usually have you round to 2 decimal places for this problem, so I'm going to do 20.83%. The next one then, 6 out of 24, that simplifies to 1 out of 4, so I know that happens to be 25%. Then the next one is 7 out of 24. Seven divided by 24 times 100, and that's 29.17%. And then the D's, that's 5 out of 24, so I will copy what I had in the first row, that was 20.83%. And then finally for the F's, we had 1 out of 24. One divided by 24 times 100, 4.17%. Now, because of rounding, this column should add up to 100%. It may not because of rounding, so just bear that in mind. Now, there's one other column. This is particularly useful, by the way, when we do pie charts. These percentages breakdowns is very useful. The last column that you'll be that you'll encounter is just cumulative frequency. So here, this is where you just add up the numbers. So by the time I'm done with the A grades, I have counted 5 of my students. Now move down. By the time I've counted all of my B grades, the total number of grades so far is 11. So that's what you're doing. You're keeping a rolling total. So then the next one, the number of C students was 7, so that by the time I'm done with the C row, I will have 18 students accounted for. And then the D's bring me up to 23. And then the F's add that one last student that's 24. For whatever reason, I'm not sure what the book's idea is, but when you do the homework, they're going to want you to put a 24 down there. So this is filling out the table. The frequency table itself is just this part. The other parts are extensions on it, and these are very useful for various other things. But your book will ask you about them. So now we've got the graph like this. Now let me come to the homework for a second, and I want to show you something in the homework. They have this little button here that you can click, and it'll open it in Excel. So I really don't care where I keep it at. I'll probably just, so long as it's Math 1190, I think I'll just keep it in there and keep using it. Now another thing that's a little bit annoying is they won't enable editing right off the bat, so you're going to have to click this button here. It is therefore clicked. Now the data they give you, it's just in this rawest form. Your graph, if you try to graph something with this, like the way we do it, here's how you try to get a graph in Excel. You start and you highlight all of the data. So I'm going to highlight our data like that. And then I'm going to insert, and over here, if you look in this region here, I've got my various types of charts. The first one here, you'll see insert column or bar chart. I think that's what I would like. So I'll pull up this, and it will have a basic graph of what it thinks it can do. So if you look at this here, this graph to me is absolutely worthless. I don't see anything here that well, there's no graph. So I'm going to cut this out. It didn't do anything for me. Let me delete it. On the other hand, let me come over here. I believe it was 5, 6, 7, 5, and 1. And over here, we would call this the frequency. Now, just so we can see this on the screen, I don't know how big the screen is looking to you, so I'm going to increase the size of my Excel screen here. Of course, that's going to screw up the charts, but we'll see what happens here. So now I'm going to highlight this data, all of it. And you can even highlight, I think you can highlight the first row because it treats the first row as a title or header row. So let me go back into Insert, and let me grab this. Let me move it out of the way. And you can see very well. So what it likes, you can see that it likes the frequency table. It knows what to do practically all by itself with the frequency table. And so let me come back up here for a second. Let me click on this picture. Sometimes if you go into the insert section, I don't know, it depends, but some of them, like when you click on the table itself, there'll be options for you to pick various forms of the table. As it is right now, what you can do with it is, well, they call frequency the title of it. Now you can change the title, so let me, I don't know, probably do something like that. If I click outside of it, it'll take hold. Let me pull this out of the way so I can see my picture. All right, so anyways, I wanted to add titles here. I just found out how to do it. Click the chart, and this little guy over here is the chart elements. I didn't see that before, so if you click that, double click maybe, it doesn't allow me, I'm going to put axis titles in here, so I'm going to have that. And then what we can do is you can click it, I believe, and then just right over it. So I'll put the grade down here. And over here we'll put the frequency. Frequency. And then anything else, any kind of stuff that you want to do to customize it, click various places and it will do that. Like if I click the chart itself, I'll have various things that I can do, like the titles and stuff like that. But if I click inside, then you'll have other things that will become available to you. So you'll look and you'll see the different things are here. Oh, actually, no, it looks like that takes care of everything. So, and oh, look at this. As you maybe hover, it shows you the different things that will happen as you hover your mouse over the things. And it's very nice. Very nice. And so that should get you started on these. These are a very specific type of bar graph. Each of these items in here was its own class of people. This next example moves us closer to what you would call a histogram, but it's not quite yet. Notice what they say here. They go use 5-point bins. So let me circle that. When they say 5-point bins, you notice that they say 95 to 99, 90 to 94. If you take 99 minus 95, that's only 4. But what they're talking about is whole numbers. So if you count with your fingers, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, that's a total of 5. So that's what they mean. So what we're going to do here is, what do we have? A frequency. These are exam scores. So what we can do is we can make a table, scores and frequency. So what they mean by bins is when they said the first one is 95 to 99, like that. And then the next one, you're going to do 90 to 94. And by now you'll be able to see how we can do all the data. Because if you see, the left numbers go down by 5s, and so do the right numbers. So I can get all my numbers real quick here. I can get 85, 80, 75, and I just need to make it as lower than the lowest score, which incidentally would have me sorting this data. The data is unsorted. Let me show you a real quick trick with that then. So I would like to have sorted data. I don't want it like this. So I'm going to open it up in Excel. I think it's going to create another Excel file for me, which is okay, I don't mind. I just have to remember to delete them later. And you have to enable editing, remember that. Real quick, what you can do is highlight the first column and then go to data. And I have to click this got it thing out of my way. And right here in the middle is the sort. So you can say, you can do from smallest to largest, or largest to smallest, whatever, it doesn't really matter. And so I'll go ahead and grab this data. So that's what I'll use to fill out my table. So my lowest data value is 71. So I'm going to need to have a 70 over here to make sure I capture that. Now the other side, we're also going down by 5s. 89, 84, 79, 74. And now our frequencies. So 70 to 74, we have how many? 1, 2 of them. Put that here. One thing your book does that's unusual is they go from highest to lowest. That's not usual. Most books that you read will start these and go from lowest to highest. It's not a big deal. It still represents the data, but just be aware of that. 75 to 79, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then 80 to 84, I've got 1, 2. Then 85 to 89, I've got 1, also 2. And then 90 to 94, I have 1, 2, 3. And then 95 and 98, there's 2 there. Now to make sure I did it right, I'm going to add this up. I know based on what I got from Excel that there's exactly 20 pieces of data. So what I'll do is add this up and make sure it adds up to 20, and it'll be sort of a check on my work. 2, 5, 7, 11, or no, 9. Plus 9 is 18, 20. All right, okay, so I have checked that out. Now, since you're going to be asked this anyways, I might as well fill out the relative frequency and the cumulative frequency while I'm here, because you'll be asked for that anyways. All right, so the relative frequency will be 2 out of 20, which will be 10%. And the cumulative frequency up to that point, there's only 2 data values. Then the next one will be 3 out of 20, which is 15%. And up to that level, there's a total of 5 data items. Moving on, I have another that's 2 out of 20, so that's another 10%. These percentages are very useful. I have a total of 7 by now. And then another 2 out of 20, another 10%. And that is 9 data items so far. This one here is 9 out of 20, which is 45%. And 9 plus 9 more gives me 18. And then finally 2 out of 20, that's 10% again. And this is when, I think I made a mistake there. I should have 9 plus 9 is 18, and then plus the 2 more is 20. So that checks out as well. Let me make sure that these percentages add up to 100, or very near 100 at least. With there was no rounding, so it should add up to exactly 100. I have 10, 25, 35, 45, 90, 100%. So that makes me feel good that I have that checked off. Now let's go ahead and draw a graph of all this. Now, one of the most important things to do is to choose a scale. Now, the way they have these listed, I literally would put the smallest ones first. So I'm going to do down here 70 through 74. Give myself some space. 75 through 79. More space. 80 through 84. 85 through 89. Let's see, what's the next one? 90 through 95. And then we have 90, what was it? 90 to 94, 95, I made a mistake there. 94. And then 95 to 99. And the other side, I don't want to go 1, 2, 3 all the way up to 18. Right now I'm trying to decide, would it be better to go 2, 4, 6, 8 all the way up to 18? And then I would need 9 marks, or could I go 3, 6? You can do that if you want. You can go 3, 6, 9. I think I might do that. Let me see how big it is. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and 18. Wait, and I wasn't thinking about it. To do the frequency correctly, I only need to go up to 9. So I've been, and that didn't look like it was going to be enough anyways. Let me see what happens here. 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, that'll work. So this doesn't seem so bad. Let me go ahead and start pulling in my rectangles. Well, I messed up my spacing a little bit, but that's basically the idea behind it. Here you have the data is contiguous like this. It starts from the top and wakes its way down through the bottom. So now let me go into Excel and try to do the same thing. Now if I click the little data button over here, what did it give us before? I'm pretty sure it gave us the data. It just gave us this data. So let me highlight this data and try to make a graph out of it. So I'm going to go into Insert, and same place, I'm going to go to the columns and bar charts. And you can see this right here. It's not anywhere in any way, shape, or form in any usable form to me. That doesn't do anything. You could probably play around with some of these things. Like I think you can play around with the data series. You can format it, but there's some places where right here you could select the data, but we've already selected the data. It doesn't know what it wants to do is with the data. It doesn't know what we want to do with the data. So I'm going to cut this out, and I am going to then let me mimic the table that I have in here. We have scores and frequency. And the scores, as I said, they went opposite what I would do. If you do 70-74, it will treat it as text. 75-79, 80-84, 85-89, 90-94, 95-99. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see on the screen. Now my frequencies, I'm going to try to do it by the, I think it was 2, 9. I think these were 2. We'll check it out. I think this might have been 3 and this might have been 2. Let me check my numbers out. I'll just take a look at it. So 292232. See if that's right. Oh, I have it backwards then. So I have 292232. Good. Now let me go ahead and highlight it. There's my data. Let's see what Excel does with that. Let me go back to the bar charts. Just choose the first one. And you can see this is really nice. Right off the bat, it's really good. I mean, this looks like what I was just doing. And then, of course, if you want to add titles and things like that, remember to push the little pluses there. You can call it whatever you want up here. The title of the table could be student performance if you wanted to, for example. Every time you click out, that'll take hold. And then if you click the chart itself, that's when this stuff becomes available. And it looks like, I don't know how much you have to click it, but it's very odd the way it seems to work. It's uncomfortable. The way it clicks is just strange. We could have axis titles. Once I click that, there they are, and then you can just click on them and type in whatever you want. If you don't think the tops of the graphs are easy to see, like there'll be different times depending on where this thing ends that it may not be possible for you to tell exactly how many items are in a bar or column. So then you might want to put in data labels so that people can see if this bar, for instance, were somewhere between 8 and 9, having a data label would make it so the person doesn't have to do guesswork. Anyways, there's all sorts of things you can go here. You can see what the legend does. Not much there. Trend line. And all these things are editable as well. Not only that, you can copy and paste these things into a Word document so you can have it as, like, for example, when you do your project, you could go and have Excel generate your pictures and then copy and paste them into your document. This isn't the only company that makes spreadsheet programs. On the internet, let me show you one that is free for download so that you can do it. Let's go to, I believe it's called LibreOffice. Yeah, there it is. Let's go home. So you just download it here. Right here is the download for it. It's a very long download because it is a full suite of programs. It's got a word processing program like Word. It's got a spreadsheet program like Excel. It also has a database program. You can also make a whatever those chart things are that you the chart presentations that people make. It'll do one of those things as well. So it's just like Microsoft Word Suite, except it's completely free. So I'll go ahead and go back to where I was. Let me go back into Excel. Excel just happened to have been installed on this computer. So everything's customizable here. You can also change how wide apart these things are. You can do anything you want. With histograms, there's generally not much gap left between them. So many times they'll go in there, and I think if you double click, you might even be able to, I don't know exactly where, but yeah, see, you have the series overlap and things like that. The gap width, you know, we could change that maybe to 0%. I don't know if I'd want to do that, but let's see what happens when I tab out of there. You get something like that. You can put highlights around them, so even when they are stuck together, you'll see them apart and things like that. So I think even with these, I like 10%. Let's see if what that does. The gap width didn't do much for me. I'm going to have to do, let's do 20%. There we go. That looks pretty good. Another type of graph that we're going to be looking at is called a time series graph. This is where one is dependent on time, or the data is given in terms of dates. You can see here, this are the sales of the U.S. movie theater tickets sold in billions. And you can see here they are year after year, every 5 years. And then in 2020, COVID brought that way down. So what I want to do is get a graph of this thing. Well, actually, before I do yeah, that's fine. You can go directly to a graph. I don't think we need to collect data or anything because it's all sorted for us. Scaling for this is interesting. The x-axis is going to have the years 2005 through 2020. And the y-axis will have the tickets in billions. So I think when we did this in class, I think 0.2 is okay. If I do 0.2, there's 4, 6, 8, there's 1.0, 1.2, 1.4. I could probably do double that, so I could probably go by tenths, but I don't know that I want to go by tenths. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just did more than I expected. I want to shorten my graph. And then down below, let me put my dates. So the year they started was 1995, and they went every 5 years. So you got 1995, 2000. I'm going to try to be a little bit better than I was last time. So I'm going to try to leave myself the same kind of space if I can. 2005. That's about 2010. 2015. And the last one was 2020. And all you do here is you graph a dot. So let's start the first one here. 1995, the ticket sales were in billions, but it's only 1.17. So when I do this, when I graph it, I'm not going to be exacting in my graph. I'm going to estimate as much as, I'm going to try not to estimate as much as I can, but let me go ahead and show you what I'm going to do here. I'll put a dot where I think it's supposed to be. So here's my 1995. I want to go to a height of about 1.17. So I'm just going to estimate it's around here. put a dot. Now go to 2000 and we have 1.36. So right above 2000, I'll go to a height of about, see, halfway between 1.2 and 1.4. I'm thinking right now, I really kind of would like to go by tenths. So we're going to, yeah, I'm going to go by tenths. So let me get back into selection. You can see I just don't, it just seems too small to me. Let's see what I can click on here. Here we go. All right, so now let me change these. I'll erase that dot in a minute, but let me right now, let me go to 0.1s. So I have a 0, 0, 0.1, 0.2, I'll count them off as I go. 0.2, 0.3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Up here is 1, 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. And I don't quite reach 1.4. So I'll be happy with this. I'll just have to shove a dot somewhere way up there to take care of that. Now let me redo my things. I like this a little bit better. So 1.17 above the 1995. Let me make my fat dots again. All right, so above 1995, I want about 1.17. So there's 1.1. There's 1.1, and there's 1.2. So it's about 7/10 of the way between. So I'm thinking, put it above 1995. I'm trying to just guesstimate 7/10 of the way up. The next one is 1.36. So this is 1.3 was right here. So we could put 1.36, say, up here, maybe. And then 1.32 is 2005. That is just barely above the lines, but it should be visibly lower than the other one. And in 2010, we should be just below that line. Then 2015, we are at 126. That should be just a little bit lower than the other one, the previous one. In 2020, we went way down to 0.24. So there's 0.1, there's 0.2. 0.24 is a little shy of halfway. So we got that. And then that's not all there is to the graph. We want to connect them. So I'm going to grab my ruler. Now my ruler, if you happen to use these things, my ruler I can adjust with the mouse wheel. So I don't usually use the mouse when I make these videos, but I am now. So here's what we do. Let me go over to the first piece of data. There we go. And now I'm going to angle it like that. And then I'm going to change my marker back to the regular size, like so. And then I can go along the ruler and have that line. I can come and angle a little more here. Pull this down. And then I'll angle it a little bit of there. Oh, there we go. And then finally, let's angle it so I can get to that last piece of data. Then I'll go ahead and do this, connect them. And that's our time series graph. And once again, you'll probably want to go see how they do it in Excel. So let me go back to the problem in the textbook. And I'm going to click the little data icon and see what it does here. I'm going to open it in Excel. I don't know, if you don't have Excel on your computer, I don't know what it will do in that. I don't know if you have a default spreadsheet program. I don't know what it will do when you do that. I think it will open up the LibreOffice one though. All right, once again, don't forget it's in protected view. So when we make this, I was a little surprised here. I thought the choice would be obvious, what we would choose for this, but it wasn't as obvious as I thought. So let me go ahead and highlight that. There's our data highlighted. Now let me insert, this time I want a time series graph, but what I found, one of my students actually found this, the bubble charts or the scatter graphs are actually better for this process. So in fact, if you go down here, look at that. That's exactly what we want. So actually it's in the scatter plots I found the best one. And you can see tickets in billions is listed as the title. We could put, just like before, if you click on this thing, you'll have the little plus sign where you can change the axes titles. You can change the title itself simply by clicking on it. And then when you're all said and done, you can copy and paste this thing into your document. The last type of graph we're going to talk about are pie charts. And whenever the data is given as percentages of the whole data, that's excellent. Let me see, just make sure that this adds up to 100%. We've got 20 plus 44 is 64, 84, 90, 100%. Good. So that checks out. So we want a pie chart that's circular. So let me go ahead and grab a circle shape. And hopefully I'll be able to do it right next to the data. Try to make it big enough so you can see. It's important, I think, to find the location of the middle. And so, I didn't mean to do that. I believe, let me click on it, because it gives me, yeah, in between there. There's sort of my middle that I'm going to work with. All right, the way you work it is this. We're going to start everything from the flat. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Here, let me bring my ruler down and let me get its angling. I don't see where I want to see the numbers because I'd like to see it actually be 0 degrees, but it's not telling me the numbers. Oh, they're there. Okay. 0 degrees is exactly where I want. And so I am going to put a mark in here. Oh, wait, I have to select this. I'll put my mark in here. There's like my starting line. And so what I want to do is 20 degrees is how much, with 20% is not the same as 20 degrees. So what we got to do is make 20% corresponding to how big it would be as a wedge on this pie chart. So what we do, if you want to find out how much of the pie chart it takes, take 20% and multiply it by 360 degrees. And you'll find that you get 72 degrees. That way when I take my ruler and I start angling it, I'm going to angle it to 72 degrees. There's my 72. Like so. And then I'll mark a wedge off. I don't know why I did that. I have no clue why I did that. Got it. Now the next one is 44 degrees more than that. Now check this out. If I go like this, when I get to 90 degrees, it starts counting down again. Well, that's annoying. So I have to keep track. I think it's a good idea to keep track of the cumulative degrees. So in the next one, if we take 44% times 360 degrees, let me see what that would be on the calculator. $158.4. Now, you're not going to be able to do a partial thing like that. But so far, if I keep a cumulative total here I got 72 plus 158 is approximately 230 total from the beginning, or, well, I don't know. I actually don't know what's better here. Let's do it this way. Let me go back to this line. It's 72 degrees. So when I go to 90, I've used up 18 degrees. I've got to do a total of 44 degrees. So if I've used up 18, I've got to go another 26 degrees. 44% should be almost half of the graph. So something's going, oh, 158 degrees. So I wasn't really paying attention, was I? 158 degrees is what I need to get to. So you know what you can do? I think this might be easier. Since I want to get to 158 degrees, or 230 degrees total, go here. This, even though it says 0 there, I'm at 180 degrees. So to get to 230, I would like to go 50 more degrees. That is where I like to go from. And let me mark it off. Then the 26 degrees, 26% times 360 degrees equals 93.6, close to 94. So the cumulative then would be 323.6, 324. If I spend the ruler all the way around 360 degrees, to get this last one here, to get to I could end that last one at 324 degrees, which is 36 degrees shy of 360. So I'm going to cut this by 36 degrees. There we go. If you're doing it by hand, a protractor is very useful to have for this. And I'll go ahead and draw my line. I think I have everything I need. The way you'd finish it off is you'd give it a title, something like number of children in American households, or whatever this is about. Mothers aged 40 to 44, whatever title information you got to put in there. But you might say 1, the number of households with one child is 20%. And then 2 children, 44%. So the wedges give an indication of the size of the group. Then for 3 of them, we have 26%. And then finally, the smallest one, 4 or more, that would be left with the 10%. So that's how you would do it by hand. In Excel, once again, let's see what the data that they give us is, and then I'll see what I can do from there. So in this data here, it's all the way over here. Let me click it. Open in Excel. All right, it's formatted well, so the data is formatted in a good way for us, I believe. Let me go ahead and highlight these things. I don't know what it's going to do about the numbers 1, 2, and 3. Let me tell you for a second. We'll see what it does, but I'll go ahead and I have that. And now let me insert. It's pretty clear what you use here. Pie charts and everything like that. You don't have to do 3-dimensional, although it looks cool. You could do this. Click on that. And you can see it looks pretty good. Percentage of mothers and things like that. You might want to change the title percentage of mothers aged 40 to 44. But also here, they give you a sort of a scale of things down at the bottom here, but they don't put the numbers inside of there like we had. So up here, if you look, if you got a newer version of Excel, some of these will have that stuff. Like this here. I like the looks of that one, for example, because the numbers are so highlighted. But of course, you don't have to choose that one. You can choose where the numbers are more integrated into the colors. So there's all sorts of options you can do. There's even more than that. So there's all sorts of things you can do. And once again, these are just as editable as any of the other graphs. You can change. You can do a lot of editing and customizing for whatever your needs are.